Mr Speaker, if that was the bold new direction of policy of the Labor Party, then this will be a government for a very long time to come, because that member there, he thinks he's going to be leader of their party, and he can only, speak fourth on the Labor rank. You know, he's only fourth cab off today, and he talks about median income and that. They've gone around and tried to find a statistic that actually suited them, and he doesn't even know what the median is. It's not the middle. The middle isn't the median. The average is the medium, is the middle, not the medium. So get your facts right, David. And when you look at this, we need to look at it in a constructive way, and the way that this country is going forward, and that's in setting a positive direction. And you've got a choice. You can either sit out there and try and tell New Zealanders what to do, as the Labor Party does, with saying you have to have fruit and vegetables and at certain prices, or that you can't sell any land. But when they sold land historically at such huge rates that no other country would even contemplate. But New Zealand has got a choice. It can either be dictated to by some people sitting on that side of the house, or it can actually give the people of New Zealand the tools to make their own future. And that's what we're doing. We trust our people, we believe in them, and by giving the taxation system that will encourage them to take risks, to work hard and to be successful, they will in turn grow themselves and grow the country. And that's the political dimension that this House represents. On one side, it is tell the people what to do, make the decisions for them, and say that you know what is best. And on the other side of the House is to empower the people, to give them the ability to make the best of their opportunities, and to actually give them the skills and strength and the opportunity to do that. And that's what we've done with the tax changes. Those changes are about to empower New Zealanders. They showed to New Zealanders that if you get an education, you get a good job, you stay in this country and you make it work, you're going to get the rewards. And that's the whole point. On the other side of the equation, they'd want to tell you what you can do. They'd try and keep everybody equal and not give you that ability to actually succeed. And we've got no problem in sending the right incentives and signals out there. We don't need an economy based on consumption and just trying to get by year or election to election, as the opposition did when they were in government. We want an economy that's long-term, that grows, that is successful and is healthy and strong. And that's what we're going to deliver through these tax changes. And when you look at what the Labor Party left in this country, they left us in recession before the rest of the world. They left us with huge inflation rates. They left us with a situation where the government was going into debt before even the recession around the world hit. They did not leave this country strong. They did not leave this country viable to go through what has happened. And imagine what would have happened if the Labor Party had actually been in power in the last 2 years and actually had to make decisions in some tough times. It would have been an absolute disaster for this country. But we've been fortunate that we've made the right calls, that we've listened to what is the right things for our people, and we've made the right decisions for this country. And that's the thing, when you look at those tax changes, they will make New Zealanders better off. They are about the long-term game. They are about providing those signals and incentives. And you have a look at some of the expenses and price changes of comparable goods over the time that Labor was in compared to National. Overall, their inflation rate for the 2 years in 06 to 08 was 7%.
How much?
7%. And our average inflation rate is 3%. In tougher times, we kept our inflation down. We've kept interest rates down so that New Zealanders can progress and go ahead. But what's this? The Labor Party always talks about how the vulnerable people are at risk because the big bad Tories are increasing the prices of food. That's what they always say. Well, food prices under Labor increased 15% in those 2 years. 15%. And under National, they've only increased by 5%. 1/3 of the increase that Labor had is what National's delivered. And so we have looked after the vulnerable people. We have looked after those that are on that don't have the income levels that you would expect or want in a country, and given them the chance to survive in these very difficult times.
Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, there's an old expression: lies, lies, and statistics, and I think we've heard some statistics in that speech, which fits into the third category of that expression. Mr. Speaker, the member, for example, said about average inflation 7% over 2 years. Well, what he meant was, what he was trying to imply was that was average annual inflation. It wasn't. It was 2 years inflation rather than an averaging at all. He got that wrong. But then, Mr. Speaker, he is consistent. He is consistent with Bill English and the approach that he's been taking on wages. He's been focusing on average earnings, and if he was straightforward, that would be fine. But he's pretending that average earnings for New Zealanders are going up. But, Mr. Speaker, they are only going up for some of the people who have jobs, and 61,000 fewer people have jobs than for the period that he is referring to. So when you have 61,000 fewer people having jobs, including a disproportionate number of young people, and Mr. Speaker, the member Sandra Gowdy appears to be having a fit. Is she all right? Mr. Speaker, I think she probably.
I can't tell.
Sorry, I thought she seriously. I thought it was a problem, but. Okay, that's good. She's normal. Okay, Mr. Speaker, I want to go back to Bill English and the fact that he refuses to acknowledge that so many New Zealanders have lost their jobs, and as people lose their jobs, that tends to be the lower income New Zealanders, which artificially inflates the averages for those who are left in work. But even with that, Mr. Speaker, over the last year, the latest figures available, then what has happened is that the median person who is employed has had a wage cut, not a real wage cut, but an actual wage cut of $9. And that, sir, is something which should be causing a lot of anxiety around the government. Mr. Speaker, the previous Speaker, Mr. Bennett, from Hamilton, bemoaned the state of the economy that the National Party took over. I want to quote from him Bill English on the 18th of December 2008, as he released the state of the economy and the forecast. This would be the half-year economic update, I presume. At that time, he said, "I want to stress that New Zealand starts from a reasonable position in dealing with the uncertainty of our economic outlook. In New Zealand, we have room to respond. This is the rainy day that the government has been saving up for," he told reporters. And I agree with Audrey Young when she said that it was a dead rat that he was swallowing, because he had said for a number of years that New Zealand was paying its debt off too quickly, and that there should be tax cuts instead of that debt being paid off. But it was good that for at least 5 minutes in 2008, Bill English recognised the truth of the situation. Mr. Speaker, I would like to make reference to the policy announcements and the developments in that area with regard to overseas ownership of land in New Zealand. And I want to acknowledge some of the comments that have been made by members opposite. The Labor Party did sell off more land than it should have. We were wrong in that area. I don't think the figure that the member uses is entirely accurate, and certainly not accurate in a net term, because quite a few of those sales were sales from, for example, the United States to Canadians. Yeah. Well, sorry. Well, no. I accept the minister's word. I accept the minister's word that was net, and that means that we were even more wrong than I was prepared to admit. Even more wrong than I was preparing to admit. We made mistakes in that area, and that has hurt. It has hurt the ability of young share milkers to get onto the land because it has artificially inflated the prices. It has hurt us in our